Yo, what's going on, everybody? You may know me as Markel, but my name is Daniel, and welcome to the Blind Dang.
Focus on the light now, focus on it right now. You need to focus on the light now.
Yo, so I hope you guys are having a blessed day. I hope you're moving purposefully. I hope you are walking righteously, and more power and blessings to the Most High and those who walk in Him. You heard, this is a safe place for the wild ones. I want all the opinions. I want all the cultures. I want everyone to come together and communicate what it is they're feeling, because I think now is the most important time for communication than ever, since we're in an era of misinformation. Alright, so now that you received a word, let's get into today's content. Okay, so today's video is a little bit different. It's a commentary style video on Euphoria.
I'm your new favorite person.
I feel like I would look so sexy pregnant. Maddie, please do not get pregnant.
You guys can all judge me if you want, but I do not care. I have never, ever been happier.
Oh, y'all, let's get naked right now.
I love you. I've always been with you. From before you were born.
I raised you. You wish I was different. So do I.
Until after you're gone.
I'm so
How's your New Year's going?
It's New Year's.
What?
New Year. I swear my boyfriend doesn't tell me anything.
But for all of those who have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, Euphoria is one of HBO's hit shows right now. You can watch it on HBO Max, directed by Sam Levinson. It is one of the cultural phenomenons of today. They're in their second season, and it has breakout names like Zendaya on the project. And it follows a couple of high schoolers finding themselves in Los Angeles as they get through a series of problems, including sex, drugs, money, violence. And it's a crazy show, even by my standards. And I mean, some of us, not naming names, watched Squid Games and didn't even really blink, but that show is crazy. So I just want to get into it immediately because there's a lot of controversy surrounding it. Some people think that they aren't depicting the culture accurately. Some people think that they are excessively over-sexualizing children and teens. And I personally think that that is my biggest qualm, if you will, with the show. But I think that we need to look at all the aspects of Euphoria. And mind you, this isn't exactly a movie reviewing page, although your boy in the day used to review some movies and TV shows, but that's not what this is today. This is commentating on the culture, because what we do here is we look at the spirituality of things and we see how we can apply that to our everyday lives. And I don't know about everybody else, but as I'm watching Euphoria, I'm not sure what the purpose is. Not sure what the purpose is that Sam's trying to get at. I'm not really clearly getting a motive behind his story, a purpose behind his story. Honestly, I think we all feel a bit of confusion and malintent when we watch this show. It's obviously has some really dark moments. And if you're in your right mind, nobody wants to watch little kids or high schoolers having sex. If you're in your right mind. The way he was sexualizing them, I was like, all right, let me just look up their ages real quick. Some of the things I think that we should be considering is, does Euphoria open up conversation? Or does it just create toxic messaging for our youth and adults alike? I mean, we're watching a show that's commentating on a very specific group of people suffering. And there are people who suffer this way in the real world, who have a battle with drugs, a battle with sex addiction, a battle with their own sexual identity. And there are people who are suffering with this, and there aren't many stories being told. But I wonder if maybe Sam Levinson has taken it a bridge too far in his depiction. He is creating a vibe, he is creating a feeling, and obviously it's not just him alone, but we like to point at the director because he's the director. For those who didn't know, Drake produced a couple of these episodes too. The music, the coloring, the energy of each scene is very, very eye-gripping, if that's a term. It encapsulates entire feelings of getting high without you having to actually get high. I think it does a really great job of accurately depicting feelings. But I think the question that should be asked is, do we need to be depicting these feelings and showing it to children? And if we are, then why are we doing it? I think one of the unique things about Euphoria is that a lot of adults, like a lot of parents, would have no idea that their kids could even come close to getting involved with any of these activities. I mean, a lot of these parents and adults never had conversations with their parents about sex, you know? So they're not having conversations with their kids about sex. They're especially not having their conversations with their kids about heroin or any drugs, to be honest. And if you are one of those parents, then your kid is probably in a better environment for open communication and is less susceptible to just getting lied to by some random dude on the street or their friends. But I think that the show, one of the pros of the show is that it immediately opens up conversation. I think one of the other pros of the show is that there's a lifeline for people who are actually suffering. If you thought you were alone in your suffering, you need not look further than season 1 of Euphoria to understand you are not alone. But here's where the cons come in. A lot of people watching this show do not believe that Euphoria is an accurate representation of what's happening in the culture. My high school experience was nothing like that, but I grew up on the East Coast in Maryland and Bowie. If you grew up in Los Angeles, which I spent time living in Los Angeles myself for a couple of months, and I've been back there every year for like the last 5 years, you know that it gets crazy, you know that it gets hectic, it's a party lifestyle out there. I don't know what it was like in high school for some of these students, so I can't really speak on that, but there are people who believe that it isn't an accurate portrayal and that it is exaggerating a lot and that it may be confusing and putting toxic ideas about what's okay and what's normal for kids to be into at the ages of 14, 15, and 16. Is it entertaining? That's besides the point. It's a TV show, so obviously it's entertaining. And maybe if you don't like the content, you shouldn't be watching it as a valid argument for this. But it being out there makes it accessible to people. So as creators, this is a message to creators, young creators, old creators, new creators who are entering into the space, and old creators looking to create something new to this culture. Like I say at the beginning of all of my videos, I hope you're creating purposefully. What is it that you are trying to create and what's the message behind it? Because I think a lot of people are missing out on that when it comes to Euphoria. The DARE program just came out and said that Euphoria glorifies drug use. And some people, like myself, believe that Euphoria is actually demonizing drug use. I mean, it's not a really pretty picture when you actually watch the show. It's not a real pretty thing to watch. Them, you know, overdosing and almost dying, and some of these kids getting beat half to death by drug dealers. But as a society, I think we do have to ask again, if we're going to depict these things on our television shows for the culture, because this is, you're putting it into the culture, it's obviously for our culture. If we're going to be creating pieces like this, what is the overall intent and messaging behind it? I'm all for depicting the real. I don't think we have enough content like that out there. I think we have a lot of sugar-coated content. I think we have a lot of exaggerated content. And Euphoria is teetering the line between exaggerated content and real-world struggles, you know? So while I do appreciate it for attempting to comment on real-world struggles, my problem comes in it over-exaggerating and over-exemplifying things that they don't need to. For example, the over-sexualization of girls is my biggest upset with this franchise, Euphoria. It's disgusting, bro. You're depicting high school girls, and although the actresses are older, you're depicting them as high school students. And it's not just like them having sex. It's not just like, oh, you know, I love you, pulling them into a room, cut to next scene. It's pornographic shots and images. Actually depicted pornographic shots. Like, that is not what you want to be seeing. That's not what I want to be seeing right now. Especially not with high school students. They need to analyze that. Analyze what their goal is instead of shooting some of these scenes how they're shooting it. I understand that you're creating a feeling and a vibe, but there are some things that just don't need to be shown, just like there are some things that don't need to be said. Anyhow, to sum it up, I think overall as a culture, we need to look at what kind of energy we're putting into the project. I mean, there is a sinister, underlying, toxic and dark energy inside of Euphoria. And as we take that content into our bodies, we're left to try to interpret that and apply what we've watched in our own life. And besides that, subconsciously, it's affecting our minds. This goes for adults and kids alike. And kids are more susceptible to their subconscious being malleable. and formed and changed. So if kids think that this is normalized content, swearing and cursing all the time the way that they do, having sex at such young ages, taking drugs at such young ages, if a kid feels tempted to do that by his peers, and he uses the justification in his own mind of, well, I've just seen it on Euphoria, so it can't be that bad, then he may go ahead and do that. I think we need to look at the youth and how these energies are affecting our children. Then we need to look at how the energies are affecting us, because it's affecting us in a new subconscious way just as much. Now we live in a new kind of material world, material girl. And women are personified and sexualized and objectified in all kinds of ways, constantly surrounding us, from porn into your music into your movies. And do we really need to see it exaggerated this much, especially at such a young age in our TV shows? I think these are the things that we need to consider taking into our bodies. I think that these are things we need to consider when suggesting for our younger siblings, or for our children, or for our little cousins to check out this show. I think we need to actually be safeguarding from this content, and obviously we can't control them from what they see, but this is why I put out a message to Sam Levinson himself. We can't control what any person does, but you can control what kind of content you put out. While I do think that there are pros and cons to this show, maybe we need to analyze and start weighing them a little bit more, you feel me? I hope you're having a blessed day, you know what I'm saying. I hope that you have received something from this video. If you did, do me a favor, hit a little like button at the bottom, you know what I'm saying. Leave a little comment in there, you know. So if you're not already typing away viciously about how much you hate my commentary, leave a comment at the bottom telling me how much you vibe with it, or your thoughts and your opinions. I really want to get into it with you guys, because I mean, the show is still interesting. It's still a good story, you know. But to me, it's more of a cultural and psychological phenomenon to see where are we as a culture and what kind of content are we really into. Alright, y'all, that's enough said. Love you, peace. Peace be to your brothers and your sisters and your mothers and your cousins and your family. Mwah, I'll see you.
Ones and twos tend to hold them back. These demons coming with gas. I'm tended to smoke it and crash. How come the light never lasts? Focus on the light now. Focus on it right